Welcome to AskFOI, where we answer the most common questions we receive here at the Friends of Israel about prophecy, Israel, and the Bible. With me today is Steve Herzig. Welcome, Steve.
Glad to be here, Steve. Thanks.
Steve, I'm excited about today's question. It's a question I've heard a lot. I'm sure you've heard a lot in your ministry here at the Friends of Israel. Are there prophetic passages in the Bible that mention the United States of America?
You know, Steve, that is a question that we receive often. I've gotten it many times. And I think the funniest answer I've ever heard is when someone came up to a colleague of mine and said, "Yes, I found the USA in prophecy." And so he said, "Really? Tell me." He said, Jerusalem. You see, the United States in Jerusalem. Well, of course, we don't do those kinds of things. In fact, as I've been on other Ask FOIs, I talked about sensationalism versus speculation. We can speculate, and for some things in the Bible, you have to do that, but we're not sensational. So answers like that are kind of crazy. But the other thing is, Steve, we live in North America, particularly we live in the United States, and we are, in our lifetime, always been the strongest nation, the most visible nation, the center of everything, political, economic, etc. And so it makes us America-centric. And I think that question comes from there, where the Bible is Israel-centric and the nations that surround them. So I don't know if anybody's ever come up to you and say, is Mexico in prophecy? Chile? Canada? I've never had that kind of question. It's always, is America in prophecy? Because again, Israel's center, we know about the European Union, we know about nations that surround them, that are enemies. Those are all in the Bible. And so the Bible's silent about America, but there are people who try to find it. So the best answer, short answer, is no. The United States is not in prophecy, except for the word ALL. And then all of a sudden, every nation's in play. So Isaiah talks about, I'll gather all nations, Isaiah the prophet. Zechariah says Jerusalem will be a cup of trembling to all nations. And so those kinds of passages include any nation at all. But interestingly enough, there are people who speculate. Let me, if I can, give you a couple of illustrations. In Isaiah 18, it speaks about a tall and smooth people. I love that expression. A tall and smooth people who are powerful, we're told. And this powerful nation is divided by a river. Ah, a river and a powerful nation. So there's several people who say, hey, this is the United States. We have the Mississippi River that divides it. We're powerful and we're tall and smooth people. Well, the problem with that is that in the context, it's Ethiopia or Cush. In the chapter 18, even though people will say, oh, this must be America, they don't read the whole chapter and put it into context. Let me give you another one, wings of an eagle. Well, Steve, you and I know the United States, the eagle, that's the United States. And so the wings of an eagle have been used as an expression in Revelation 12, where during the tribulation, the Jewish people are taken to a safe place on the wings of an eagle. Again, there are some people who say that. We at Friends of Israel wouldn't say that. And if you go to Exodus chapter 19, it tells us that God bore them on eagle's wings. So in the context, God is the eagle, and the Jewish people are on his wings. And so we get things like that, and I think it's just because America's so important to us. So the question then becomes, if America is only in all, that is, if it becomes part of the collective, something would have to change, since right now America is central to just about everything. Now, here's where we do speculate, or at least I will speculate. It could be that America is weakened in some way, so we're not numero uno anymore. We're down lower on the list. Could that be military? Could it be economic? Could it be a natural cause? It could be anything like that, including the rapture of the church. Because if the rapture were to take place, for instance, now, Steve, besides saying, thank you, Lord, it would eliminate a tremendous amount of human resources, just by the taking away of the church. Military, economic, in so many different ways, immediately America would go down. Whereas in other places of the world, for instance, in Saudi Arabia, if the rapture took place, there's Christians all over the place, but they're a minority. Where here we're a minority, but a large minority. What about if we cease to exist from some certain activities that happen? That could be another thing. My personal opinion is that I think we are continue to move away from God in everything that we do, and I think our nation is going to be judged one way or the other. And so, America in prophecy, I would say yes, if you're talking about all the nations of the world, including the fact that they will gather against Jerusalem. And Steve, that's the other thing. So far, and isn't it good that you and I are blessed to live in America, even still at a time when Genesis 12 plays so much of a role. I travel all around the United States and meet on a continual basis believers that love Israel, support Israel, and use their energies to help them. There will be a time when that won't happen. And when it does, I think that's when America becomes part of the all collective.
I think it's important to remember that the Lord has used nations in the life of Israel. He's used the Babylonians, he's used the Assyrians to discipline Israel. And right now, the Lord has used the United States to bless Israel, but that may not always be the case.
That's true. We are blessing Israel, but there will be a day when we won't. You know, you see the headlines uh, over the last several years of the rise of anti-Semitism and the denial of, first, their denial of the Holocaust, and now even by some, the denial of October 7th. That's kind of the pathway it seems that the United States is going. But by God's grace, we hope and pray that America will stick with Israel.
Really helpful. Thank you, Steve.